Inflation in the US is not slowing down, and most people have no idea what to do about it. I noticed this early on before I left my six-figure consulting job and moved to Taiwan. In this video, I'm going to show you what I did with my money and what you should be doing right now. Okay, but let's be real for a second. Everything costs more now, and I mean a lot more. You want a nice PS5? That'll be 900 bucks. You want to build a PC? Well, RAM prices are through the roof, so hope you're okay with that. You want a new car? The average new car in America is pushing 50K now. That's $50,000. That used to be a down payment on a house. Or you want to grab some fast food? What used to cost you like $7 is now like 13 or 14. For a burger and some fries, that's an insult. Your energy bills are also going up too. AI data centers are consuming massive amounts of electricity. Companies are building these giant server farms all over the country, and they're pulling power from the same grid you're on. Your bill goes up, so a tech company can train another AI model. And this one I couldn't believe. Grown men, adults with jobs and responsibilities, getting into fights over Pokemon cards. Not food, not water, I'm talking trading cards. That is what inflation and economic stress does to people. It makes them act irrational because deep down they know something is wrong, but they don't know what to do about it. This is not normal. And the worst part is, I don't think most of these prices are coming back anytime soon. Once prices go up at this scale, they tend to stay up. So the question is not whether inflation is real. I mean, it's obviously real. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And while prices are going up, wages are not moving fast enough to keep up. I remember there was this guy recently who literally burnt down a building over not being paid a livable wage. Now, I'm not saying that was the right move, but when a person reaches a point where that feels like the only way to be heard, that tells you something about how deep this frustration runs. There are many people working full-time jobs right now that are losing ground financially every year, not because they're lazy or dumb, but because the math simply doesn't work anymore. Inflation is basically the government and the financial system reaching into your paycheck and taking a cut before you even spend a dime. It is basically like a quiet tax. And the scary thing is that most people don't notice it happening until they look up and realize they've been grinding for 5 years and somehow feel further behind than when they started. Okay, so now let me talk about what most people are doing wrong right now. And I say this with respect because I made some of these mistakes early on. The first mistake is panic buying. People will see prices going up and they start stockpiling things they don't really need, like bulk buying stuff that will eventually expire, buying extra things just because they feel scared. That burns through cash pretty fast and it doesn't really protect you. The second mistake is hoarding cash. I mentioned this in my last video and I get it, cash feels safe, but holding a bunch of dollars while inflation is running hot is losing money in slow motion. Your cash is depreciating every single day it just sits there. The third mistake is doing nothing, just hoping it gets better, just waiting for things to go back to normal. That is probably the most dangerous move of all because the people who wait the longest are always the ones who get hurt the most. Another is spending money on lifestyle to look like you have money instead of actually building any. I'm talking about going out every weekend, buying clothes to flex, upgrading phones every year, eating out constantly. Meanwhile, they're stuck in the same dead-end job for years or have no meaningful assets or investments. Look, I'm not saying you can't enjoy your life, but there is a difference between spending money on things that bring real value to your life versus spending money to keep up an image. One builds a future, the other just makes Instagram look good. You have to stop reacting emotionally to your financial situation and start thinking more strategically. Now, back when I was working in my corporate consulting job before I quit, I noticed prices slowly creeping up year after year. I noticed that my purchasing power was not really growing much, even though my salary technically was. I also noticed the general vibe in America shifting toward this thing where no matter how hard you work, the finish line just keeps moving further away. I started seeing America differently, but as a place that is extremely capitalistic in a way that doesn't always serve the regular person. Take the food system, for example, and the healthcare system, the housing market, the whole infrastructure. All of it felt like it was optimized to extract as much money from you rather than help you build a life. So when I started noticing that, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I began building assets for my future self. I wanted to put myself in a better position just in case, while most people around me weren't really even thinking about it yet. I think America is still one of the best places in the world to earn money. The salaries are high compared to most of the world, but the goal for me was to earn enough to enjoy living life elsewhere where my dollars go much further with better living quality. Now, I have talked about this in some of my earlier videos, but I want to bring it up here because it is directly connected to the inflation story. Several years ago, I put serious money into Bitcoin, and I also put serious money into MicroStrategy, which, for anyone who doesn't know, is basically a company that holds massive amounts of Bitcoin on its balance sheet. It's like buying Bitcoin with some leverage baked in through the stock market. I didn't do this because I thought it was cool. I did it as a direct response to the dollar getting devalued. I looked at what the government was doing with money printing, the country's debt levels. I looked at inflation trends, and I realized that holding dollars long term was a bad strategy. And those investments eventually gave me real options. And that's how I ended up in Taiwan. Of course, my wife was also a big help and provided a lot of support, so I gotta give her some credit too. Now, will I ever move back to the US? Maybe. If the right opportunity showed up with work I actually enjoy and a much stronger comp than my last job, I would entertain it. And I still get recruiter calls and messages here and there, but I'm really not in a rush anytime soon. All right, so let's break down what actually works when inflation is running hot. First, real assets, things like real estate, commodities, and equities. When the dollar loses value, these things tend to hold or grow in price because they're tied to real world demand. A piece of land, a barrel of oil, a share of a company that makes actual products. These are not perfect inflation hedges, but they are historically much better than sitting in cash. Second, are equities in the right sectors. Not all stocks are equal during inflation. Think about companies that can raise their prices without losing customers, or energy companies, commodity producers, and companies with strong pricing power tend to do better. You want to own businesses that can pass inflation onto their customers. Just take a look at Costco, for example. I mean, the chart literally just goes up. Third is scarce digital assets. I already talked about Bitcoin, but I will say it again. Scarcity is one of the most powerful financial concepts you can understand. When supply is capped and demand grows, price goes up. It's really not complicated. It's just basic economics. Fourth is your own skills and different income streams. Investing in yourself so you can earn more is one of the best inflation hedges there is. A higher income gives you more money to deploy into assets, and building income streams outside your main job reduces your dependence on any one source. Now, let's talk about geo arbitrage as another way to fight inflation. You can earn in dollars and spend in a currency that goes much further. I live in Taiwan now. The cost of living here compared to any major US city is dramatically lower. My rent is lower. I'm paying about 500 bucks a month now. My food is cheaper and honestly higher quality. My healthcare is accessible and affordable. The public transportation is excellent. The country is safe and I feel it. And the quality of life is pretty high. Meanwhile, my US based investments are still compounding. I just changed where I spend my money. And I see a lot of people online fantasizing about moving abroad, but never do it. Well, I've actually done it and living it right now. I'm not saying everyone should move abroad. It's definitely not for everyone, but I am saying that if you're feeling a bit of financial pressure or you're not happy where you are, it's okay to think, hey, why not consider living and making money in another state? Or maybe I can become an expat through my employer. Just throwing some ideas out there, and it doesn't hurt to consider. All right, so let me wrap this up with something actionable. Step one, stop the bleeding. I stopped buying unnecessary things. It was really challenging and hard to adjust at first, but over time, I got used to it. I got honest with myself about what I actually needed versus what I was buying out of habit, boredom, or social pressure. I focused my spending on things that actually benefit my health, my mind, and my long-term future. I'm talking things like good quality food, gym membership, personal skills, those sort of things. This is not about being cheap. I look at it like every dollar you stop wasting is a dollar that can go work for you. Step two, start putting money in assets that fight inflation. You don't need a lot of money to start. If you can put even a small amount every month into like an index or an ETF fund, Bitcoin, or other quality equity positions, you are doing more than most people. And time in the market matters much more than the amount you start with. Step three, expand your thinking about where and how you live. This doesn't mean you have to move tomorrow, but I would start just casually researching when you have time. Look at different states or countries with lower cost of living. See and listen to what it's like living and working there. Look for employers that still value remote work or have international opportunities. Look at ways to build income that's not tied to one physical location. Even just exposing yourself to these ideas will change how you think about your options. That's it for today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and share it with someone if you think they need to hear this. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.